Obviously, it should be objectionable. And they were upset about that. And so they complained about it online and were sent to prison.
No one's interested in your juvenile questions about some heckler at some event a couple of nights ago. Focus on the really important things. Do your job properly.
I see. We've had an independent inquiry on child sexual exploitation. Not a single one of those recommendations was implemented by the last government. We are determined to implement those recommendations.
What if I told you that one of the most powerful men in the world believes Britain is covering up the worst mass crime in its history? Elon Musk's recent tweets about grooming gangs have sent shockwaves through the UK, forcing a long-buried scandal back into the spotlight. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video, but as the dust settles, more questions emerge.
Migrant rape gangs in England that would run around and prey on young girls.
We're starting the new year with the message of peace and goodwill, are we? Let's just deal with the question I asked you, then we can get on to the things you want to talk about.
Is Musk right to demand a national inquiry? Or is he meddling in matters he doesn't fully understand? And why has the media been so reluctant to cover this story? Join us as we untangle this web of accusations, denials, and counterclaims that's gripping the nation. Elon Musk, the tech titan known for revolutionizing electric cars and space travel, has suddenly thrust himself into the heart of British politics. His recent foray into the UK's grooming gang scandal has left many scratching their heads. Is this the same Musk who's usually more concerned with Mars colonization than Manchester's social issues? Musk's explosive tweets about the scandal have sent shockwaves through the British establishment. He's not just calling for inquiries, he's demanding heads rolls. Prison for Phillips now, he thundered, taking aim at Labour MP Jess Phillips. It's a far cry from discussing Tesla's latest innovations or SpaceX's next launch.
So yes, the simple answer is the people want reform. We need root and branch reform in this country. And this appalling rape gang scandal that you've just been...
Snake eating its tail. I think Elon Musk is slightly upset, perhaps, that Farage didn't completely endorse Musk's support for Tommy Robinson.
The reaction from UK officials and public figures has been a mixed bag of outrage, defensiveness, and bewilderment. While some applaud Musk for shining a light on a long-buried scandal, others accuse him of dangerous oversimplification. The power dynamics at play are fascinating. Here's a global influencer with 130 million Twitter followers wading into a complex national issue. It's like watching a bull in a china shop. If the bull had a megaphone and the china shop was the British political establishment. Musk's tweets have gained traction in a way that traditional media coverage hasn't. While outlets like the BBC and Sky News have been criticized for their reluctance to cover the grooming gang scandal extensively, Musk's posts have gone viral. A petition he shared calling for the removal of Labour leader Keir Starmer amassed over 3 million signatures. It's a stark reminder of the power of social media to shape public discourse. But what are the potential consequences of Musk's involvement?
Very good morning to you. Well, the simple answer is yes, we absolutely can. Look at where we are in the polls, Trevor.
I'm not asking a question yet.
We're in the mid-20s. We're alongside the Tories and the Labour.
Have put more rapists, wife beaters, and paedophiles behind bars than their critics could ever do.
His framing of the issue has been criticized for promoting divisive rhetoric and oversimplifying a multifaceted problem. There's a real risk that his celebrity status could lead to misinformation and sensationalism, drowning out nuanced discussions. Yet there's no denying that Musk's tweets have reshaped the conversation. They've forced the issue back into the spotlight, sparking heated debates and demanding answers from those in power. Whether you view him as a crusader for justice or a loose cannon, Musk has undeniably amplified a scandal that many would prefer to keep buried. As we delve deeper into the complexities of the grooming gang issue, we're left wondering, in the age of social media, who really controls the narrative? And when a tech billionaire becomes a political commentator, where do we draw the line between exposing wrongdoing and fueling dangerous narratives? Imagine being doused in petrol, threatened with violence, and trafficked to other towns for repeated rape. This isn't the plot of a horror movie. It's the grim reality faced by victims of grooming gangs in the UK. The scale and brutality of these crimes have left communities reeling and demanding answers.
Relevant, Trevor. What's relevant
No, it
is
isn't.
we want a national inquiry into the most horrific scandal. That's what tens of millions
engages in a feud with Musk, that might sort of burn bridges with Musk, might prevent the possibility of getting a lot of money to reform, and ultimately burn an important bridge with Donald Trump.
The grooming gang scandal has cast a long shadow over British society, exposing deep-rooted issues of institutional failure and cultural tensions. For years, vulnerable children were systematically abused while those meant to protect them turned a blind eye. But why? The reasons behind this alleged cover-up are as complex as they are disturbing. At the heart of the controversy lies a toxic mix of political correctness and fear. Police and local authorities, wary of being labeled racist, often failed to prioritize abuse cases involving perpetrators described as Asian or Pakistani. In Telford, concerns about potential race riots led to allegations being suppressed or ignored. It's a damning indictment of a system more concerned with optics than the safety of children. The media's reluctance to cover the story extensively has only added fuel to the fire. Critics argue that this silence has allowed the abuse to continue unchecked, while others point to the delicate balance between responsible reporting and avoiding racial stereotypes. It's a tightrope walk that's left many questioning the true role of journalism in tackling societal ills.
This weekend, one of your MPs was heckled by a couple of members who were evidently supporters of Tommy Robinson and the English Defence League.
Let's not forget that Farage is trying to position himself as a link between the UK and the US and talking about how we can perhaps facilitate a trade deal.
So, what's the solution? The debate rages on between those calling for a national inquiry and those advocating for local investigations. Conservative Party leader Kemi Badenoch has thrown her weight behind a full national inquiry into the rape gang scandal, but others argue that localized approaches can better address the specific needs of affected communities. The consequences of inaction are dire. Survivors of grooming gangs have expressed feelings of being ignored or mocked by officials when reporting their experiences. The trauma of abuse, compounded by institutional neglect, has left deep scars on individuals and communities alike. Without decisive action, there's a real risk of perpetuating a cycle of abuse and mistrust. Yet, there are glimmers of hope. A 2022 report into Oldham's handling of the scandal found no evidence of a cover-up.
Have you found the people who heckled Lee Anderson, and do you plan to expel them? Answer yes or no, and then we can get on to the things you want to talk about.
Chief Torture, truly evil human being, like this guy Beria. One of his famous quotes was, "Show me the man and I'll show you the crime."
Despite concerns about far-right exploitation of the issue, it's a small step towards transparency, but one that highlights the complexities of addressing such a sensitive topic. As we grapple with the fallout from these revelations, larger questions loom. How do we balance the need for justice with the potential for social unrest? Can we address systemic failures without falling into the trap of racial profiling? The answers to these questions will shape not just the future of law enforcement and child protection, but the very fabric of British society itself. As we've seen, the grooming gang scandal has become a powder keg of celebrity influence, media responsibility, and political accountability. Elon Musk's tweets have forced a long-buried issue back into the spotlight, but at what cost?
Right.
They decide that you're the target, and then they figure out the crime afterwards.
Have you identified and expelled them?
No one's interested in a convicted criminal, Trevor. We're talking about the most horrific
I'm interested in your members.
His inflammatory rhetoric, calling for the imprisonment of UK officials and labeling the scandal as the worst mass crime against the people of Britain ever, has certainly grabbed headlines. But is this the kind of nuanced discussion such a sensitive topic demands? The media's reluctance to cover the story extensively has left a vacuum that's been filled by social media outrage and celebrity hot takes. It's a stark reminder of how traditional journalism is losing ground to the viral power of tweets and sound bites. But when complex social issues are reduced to 280 characters, what gets lost in translation? As we move forward, we're left grappling with some uncomfortable questions. How do we balance the need for open discourse with the potential for misinformation?
Have you found the two people who stood up and heckled Lee Anderson and said Tommy Robinson should be freed?
Trevor, are you going to ask questions about the most important horrific scandal?
Yes, I am.
I kid you not. How can this be real? They are releasing convicted pedophiles from prison in order to put people in prison for Facebook posts.
Can we address systemic failures without falling into the trap of racial profiling? And in an age where a tech billionaire can reshape political narratives with a single tweet, who really holds the power to affect change? The grooming gang scandal demands more than just outrage and finger-pointing. It requires a commitment to critical thinking, a willingness to engage with uncomfortable truths, and the courage to hold those in power accountable, regardless of their follower count. As citizens, we must demand better from our media, our politicians, and yes, even our favorite Twitter provocateurs. The victims of these heinous crimes deserve nothing less than our most informed, nuanced, and compassionate response.